learn more about the science beyond today. The ones that I'll talk with you today were developed by investigator teams who are inspired by how the space station offers them a new and different way of doing research. Some are inspired by their role in contributing to human exploration beyond low Earth orbit. Others are inspired by the potential breakthroughs that they may get in their own research that will result from using the unique environment of the space station. Certainly all have been challenged to think through processes and behaviors that aren't always intuitive for them as they would be here on Earth, where the gravity force is really, really strong and doesn't change. I've had a chance to meet with many of the researchers over the last few days and the students associated with this flight, and some are excited newcomers and new faces to ISS that I've never met before, small businesses, and others are experienced space science veterans. All are as excited as ever to see their hard work and their promise head to ISS on this particular NG10 launch. In the area of human exploration, we're sending up a refabricator from the Small Business Tethers Unlimited in conjunction with Marshall Space Flight Center. They'll demonstrate the first ever integrated 3D printer and recycler in space. It recycles waste plastic, potentially, materials into high quality 3D filament for the 3D printer, providing the potential for sustainable fabrication, repair, and recycling of plastic materials on long-duration space missions. So it's a key part of NASA's in-space manufacturing tech demo roadmap. There's another investigation when you think about sustaining humans in beyond low Earth orbit. That's the MVP Self-5 investigation. And it's going to look at the complex process of cement solidification. This team is interested in the future of making and using concrete on extraterrestrial bodies like the Moon and Mars. Earlier this year, this Penn State University team performed cement solidification in microgravity on space station, and they got their samples home and found some interesting things that caused them to want to reiterate their science again in space. So this particular time, what they found, what was really interesting to them was as the cement solidification process proceeded in microgravity, their samples they got back, they saw really large crystals in the materials. And so that's likely due to lack of sedimentation and convection forces associated with just being in the microgravity environment. And that's an interesting finding for them to further study. So now they want to send up their next investigation on this launch, looking at cement solidification again, but this time using the new centrifuge capability, small centrifuge capability that we have on space station so that they can form their concrete under different varying G levels, such as the Moon and Mars. Coincidentally, there's also a student investigation headed to ISS on this flight that will examine bacteria calcification in the pores of broken concrete in microgravity as a form of self-healing. So we have two concrete investigations unbeknownst to either of these teams. I met the students yesterday. They are from the Higher Orbits Go for Launch program, where student design experiments for a chance to compete and send them to the space station. They were excited to hear about the other investigation, and they're actually looking forward to making connections with those investigators and talking about results and potential go-forward opportunities. So really, they learned so much, and they're really inspired, and that's what we like to encourage, and that's why these in-person meetings are important and these interactions between space station scientists. So when you think about the future and ISS's role in the future of establishing longer-term human presence and infrastructures such as these on the Moon or Mars, these are the kinds of studies that we can do right now while we have complete access to ISS to help develop the technologies to do that. Also relevant to human exploration is the Vection experiment that will be performed by our Canadian colleagues. This study looks at how microgravity affects the complicated sensory systems that enable astronauts to perceive self-motion and also judge the distance of objects and how that might be affected in microgravity. And it's studies like these that help ensure crew safety as we begin to explore further. A little closer to home, researchers are using the space station through the ISS National Lab effort to advance research breakthroughs on Earth. The Michael J. Fox Foundation is performing a second iteration of its protein crystal growth investigation. They're trying to discern the structure of the LRRK2 protein, which is responsible in the progression of Parkinson's disease. Knowing the elusive structure of this particular protein could help improve therapeutic treatment of that disease. This second iteration, in the second iteration, the researchers are going to use new space station capabilities to observe their crystal growth real time. on the station so that it's going to allow them to make changes in their process and methods as they iterate on board in the microgravity environment, much like what you can do in labs on Earth. Regenerative medicine is also a priority research area for the ISS National Lab, and on this flight, a company called MicroGRX will launch a lab-on-chip, fully automated, multifunctional cell culture platform looking at skeletal muscle cells. And this project will provide a model for microgravity-induced atrophy, called muscle wasting, while facilitating higher accuracy musculoskeletal disease modeling and therapeutic testing. These kind of therapeutic testings could actually help advance the way that we go through medical clinical trial processes on Earth. This is the first lab-on-chip investigation ever being done on ISS, and it's setting the stage for future technologies, such as the series of tissue chips in space, demonstrated by the National Science Foundation that's coming up on the next series of flights through the National Lab Partnership. But as Cygnus departs ISS, its science job isn't done until it deploys CubeSats that you heard about. That'll give students experiments in spaceflight hardware design and testing. It'll also test communication technologies. You heard a mention of first deploy of these things below ISS, and that are going to be, I think that's the series of 100 tiny little FIMSAT satellites. That are these tiny little chips that are looking to integrate a bunch of sensory and testing capabilities and put them out into the environment space and see how the technology works. So our crews on orbit are looking forward to keeping busy with the supplies from this launch. It's why they're there. It's what they care about. They're excited about. They believe in it, as we do. And we're also looking forward to the advancements that come from the results of these investigations. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Tara, and thank you to the panel.